I want to welcome everybody to our November GEG Utah Meetup. Today we're going to be talking about what's new in Google Sheets with Ian Davey. He's going to be doing that with us. We have a few announcements that I'd like to go through, kind of what they are. So we're gonna just go on to our announcements here. We have a Demo Slam info that's going to be coming December 2nd. And that Demo Slam is for all of those that are part of GEG Utah, or anybody who's interested in Google that wants to present and do a Demo Slam for USET. And you present your video and put it in there, and then they'll be judging. And we have St. George Ed Camp coming up February 8th. And USET this for 2025 is February 25th and 26th. Anything else you need to have me add there, Kelly?
It looks great. We're just excited about the Demo Slam, and we'll tell you more about that later on.
Great. And now this is Ian Davey, and we're going to find out all about Sheets.
Okay, thank you, Deanna. So yeah, we are going to talk about a few recent updates that have taken place in Google Sheets. These, I would say, really over the last several months. A couple of these even, I would say, the end of last school year. But it's been a little while since we've talked about Google Sheets, and so there's kind of four main areas here that we're gonna touch on. So I'll go through these real quick, and then we'll jump into a Google Sheet here in a second. And we'll actually take a look at these. So the first one, we're going to look at some of the recent updates to Smart Chips. You're probably familiar with Smart Chips in Google Docs, but they also live in Google Sheets as well. And so we won't go through every detail with those, but we'll just kind of touch on some of the updates and changes there. There is a new formatting option in Google Sheets. They're called tables. Basically, it's a way to take your data and kind of organize it so that you can quickly filter through it and sort through it. And so we're going to take a look at that. And then also, this is another pretty recent update, conditional notifications. You may have set up notifications before on a Google Sheet for when it gets edited or changed. But now you can actually control a little bit more about what triggers those notifications. So we'll look at that as well briefly. And then the last one, form responses. You might have noticed that your Google form responses have started to look a little bit different. And that's because they are automatically using tables. And so I'll briefly talk about that one as well. That kind of goes with the tables update. So let's go ahead and jump over to a Google Sheet, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these things. So 1 second here while we switch things around. All right, here we are at a Google Sheet. This is just some sample data that I have that I use in some other trainings and things like that. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is some of the Smart Chip options that are available in Google Sheets. So much like Google Docs, you can get to the Smart Chip options simply by typing in an @ symbol. And you'll see some of the things that pop up immediately, like some email addresses, files that you might have, dates, calendar events, some things like that. But there's also some other ways that we can get to this. So if you're in a cell and you come up to Insert up at the top, if you scroll down, you will see a whole section down here. There's some pre-built Smart Chips in there, like checkboxes and drop downs, emojis. And then also Smart Chips has its own little section. So some of these are very straightforward, I think pretty self-explanatory. People would allow you to put in an email address and the little contact card that pops up in Google. A file is just that. You can link to a file that you have in Drive. Calendar events, you can link to a calendar event. If you've got, maybe resources located into calendar event, like a notes document or, some other, maybe a recording that's attached to a calendar invite. It's nice to maybe be able to reference those. And then there's a couple other ones in here. So Place will give you an option you can start typing in an address. And when you do that, you can click on an address and it'll pop in with a little chip right there. And when you click on it, it gives you a little preview. So that's a Place Smart Chip. This one here for finance, this would be if you had some other data that you were connected to. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with that finance information, since that's not really the world that I live in. But depending on your role in your school district, that might be something that you do. And then the last one, this one's kind of fun, is a rating system as well. So this gives a little star You can see there's 5 stars in there. You can click on that and adjust what rating. And so that could be helpful if you wanted to do some voting or something like that in a Google Sheet. So those are some of the things that kind of live in this space right there. And you can see a lot of those in there. And then again, that you can type the @ symbol, which will pull those up, or you can jump into the insert menu and find them there. A couple other things that you can do. If you click on an entire column that's got certain data in it, in this case, I've got subject data in here. Let me pull the freeze bar down real quick. And you come into insert right in that smart chip area. You can see drop down is in there. That might be something that you're interested in taking a look at. So what I did is I just went through and I highlighted the entire column. And here I can get rid of my header is in there. I'm going to get rid of the header. But there I can, it pulls in all of the values that are in there. And from there, you can change the colors. You can do some quick changes to kind of format things. And so those drop downs are all part of the smart chip menu that is available in Google Sheets as well. So that might be something that you want to take a look at as well. And once you hit done, now we've got a whole series of drop downs in those cells. So we can click on those and really quickly do some, you can switch to a different subject in this case, or whatever data you have in your spreadsheet that might be helpful to be able to do that with. All right, well, let's kind of keep moving through here. So the second thing that I wanted to take a look at is tables in Google Sheets. And so what I'm going to do is actually just highlight all of my data. And mine isn't super big, so this is a pretty easy task here. But I'm just going to highlight. In this case, I got a list of students, their subjects, and then some test scores. And once you've got your data highlighted, you can come up to, I believe it's under, it's moved, I think. There it is. It's under format. I had to remember where it was. So there is an option in here to convert to table. And so when you click on that, what Google Sheets does is it automatically goes through and kind of adds some formatting for us. And this is helpful if maybe you're not exactly sure what you want to do, if you just kind of need a starting place. And then also it gives us some tools that allow us to do a few other things as well. And it allows us to kind of format the data and sort through it in a way that maybe is a little bit quicker. So a couple things that it does right off the bat is each column, we can give it a description. So you can edit the column type up here. And so in my case, I've got student IDs here. You could do that as number, or really student IDs are more of a text-based field. So I'm going to select that. I can change my name column to text. For section, I'm actually going to change that column type. You'll notice that the tables tool actually brings in some of those smart chips. So there's a bunch of different options in here. I'm going to select drop down. And you can see when I select drop down, it turned my section column into drop downs as well. Just like we saw earlier, you could adjust things like color with those drop downs, but now it's kind of just built right into our table. We'll hit done and come back here. And so now I've got those drop downs built in. You can also change any of these other ones to some of, you can kind of see some of the different options that live underneath there for the different column types. So you can add in some additional things there. You probably noticed up at the top of each of these columns, automatically it's brought in our header row, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to worry about maybe moving the freeze bar around or adjusting the formatting of your header. You can see it's really clear for us. Mine is like a dark green color right now, just by default, depending on where you're at. I know Google Forms, I think they show up as a dark purple. I think because Google Forms are purple. We'll talk about that here in a second as well. But once you've got your table formatted here, there's a few other things that you can start doing. So you can start doing things like sorting based on these columns. And so you could go through and I could sort. And so I just sorted here lowest to highest based on test A. You can see it sorted all of my data, put them all in order. So that might be a great way to, grab a group of students who maybe all need certain support or something like that. If you click here, you can also see you can do some other options here like grouping by columns as well. And so now you can see when I clicked on group by B, now I have test B, and all of my scores have been grouped based on how the students did there. And so you can see that it's kind of pulled everything out. And so I can quickly see groups of students who all scored similarly. Depending on your data or depending on what you're looking at, that may be helpful, or it may not. It just kind of depends on what you're working with there. And then the last thing that I think I'll show here, up at the top, you have an option to create different views. And so what you can do is, well, just like we did where we sorted column A, I might also want to sort column B, or test B and test C and so on. And so what you can do is you can automatically kind of save these, and it kind of creates one of those views quickly. And then you can, right now it's, you can see up here at the top, it just says temporary. But there's an option over, if I move over here to the right, there's an option to save this view. So I can click save. And let's say, this one here, that default is perfect, group by test A. And I can save that. But let's say I want to go in and I want to group by test B. I could do that same thing. So now I've grouped again by test B. I could save that view. And so what it allows us to do is we can quickly create these. And now you can see they're being saved up here. And so without having to totally change the data again, I can quickly see some of those groupings. And so it's a really easy way to get back to some of that. Depending on the size of the data that you have, that could be really useful, because you might want to jump back and, I want to see how the kids did by test A again. And you could quickly organize and do that. And it's all saved right there for you. You don't have to go and recreate that view, resort and rechange everything. And you can kind of do that quickly and jump right into it. So that's kind of tables in a nutshell. There are a few other pieces to this that we could go into, but for sake of time, I just kind of want to start there. And really what I would encourage you to do is to spend some time kind of exploring, some of those tools. Those of you who use Google Forms, you might get to explore this a little bit quicker than maybe you were planning on, because you probably did notice, if you've done a Google form recently, that your form responses are automatically saved in a table. And so that's something that you might want to consider as well. It automatically goes through and it will, it puts the table formatting in there. And, it makes it a little bit easier to be able to sort through and filter your data as well. Sometimes those were things that a lot of us would do after the fact, after we did a Google form, and we'd want to go through and review our data. So it's kind of nice that it kind of allows us, it sets us up to be able to do that right away. So let's jump into our last kind of update here. And I know I already mentioned, I guess really the fourth one was the Google Forms in table form. So that one we kind of covered here. But the last one that I want to talk about is the ability to set up conditional notifications. And so let's go ahead and let me kind of show you where that tool lives first. So up at the top, you've got your tools menu. There's a few different things that live under here. But the one that we're looking for is conditional notifications. And so when this pops up, it's going to open in a kind of sidebar like many of the other tools in Google Sheets. And you'll notice we have the opportunity here to add a rule. So what you do is click add a rule. And what you'll do is you'll set that to a certain range. By default, mine is already set to the table that I'm already in here. But if you were in another portion of Google Sheets, you could set it to a specific range or something like that. I can also go through and set this to a specific column. So it's kind of further refining that range that we're looking at. And then what we'll do is we'll add a condition. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say anytime that data in this column, test A, meets this condition, then we're going to come down here and we'll talk about setting up that notification. So I'm going to do, let's do data is, I'm going to do less than or equal to in this case. And I'm going to go ahead and put in anytime a student gets less than, let's see, I think all these are at 25. Let's say I want to be notified when a student gets less than or equal to 15, that when the data changes to be less than or equal to 15. And so that just means that that's when it's going to notify me. And so what we'll do is down here, we are going to have it send me an email notification, and I'm just going to type in my own email address. There we go. You'll notice you can put in more email addresses if you want. And then once you've got that all ready, you'll go ahead and hit save. And so basically what that's going to do is when the data in this column changes, now it's not going to send me notifications right now, even though there are some scores that are lower than that. But what it's going to do is if any of the data in here changes to be less than that, so let's say I go ahead and add in a score there. Let's say I change that one to be a 10. That should trigger the form to send me that information. You can see it already messed up my group because I was already grouping. That might be more appropriate if it was if I hadn't already grouped it. But this is just kind of an example here. So as that data gets changed, it should trigger that notification, and then it should send me an email. I'm not going to jump over to my email right now, but if we were to come in here, I don't think it's probably not going to do it immediately, but it will do it kind of as the sheet refreshes here. And you can actually go through and see those notifications that have taken place. So that one, I would kind of suggest that you kind of think about maybe some scenarios that you'd be looking to get notified in a Google Sheet in that situation. And so this may not be, I did it based on a test data here. That might be appropriate. It might be something you're looking to do. It might be more appropriate maybe in a Google form or something. Maybe you want to get notified after a certain response. Maybe there's a certain response that you're looking for or maybe not looking for, and maybe you want to get notified based on that. So it just allows you to kind of narrow down some of those notifications. You used to be able to do notifications in Google Sheets. You still can do that, but this just kind of further sets the conditions by which you'd get notified. So instead of getting notified for everything, now there's a specific rule that you have set in place, and that's where you'd be getting notified by that. So, all right, let's go ahead, and I'm going to jump back to our presentation as we wrap up. Okay, so here we are back at our presentation. Just to kind of close things out, we want to put in a kind of a be on the lookout for some information. Every December, we do kind of a resource share. And so we're going to be doing a holiday gift guide coming up. So check your email. You'll see a few things from our team related to that. These are just going to be kind of some tips and tricks that you can use. They might be holiday themed. They might just be great things that you can use with your students here in the coming weeks. So kind of be looking for that. And then other than that, we're going to kind of finish up. So we appreciate you taking just a few minutes out of your day to kind of learn some of these things from us. And we appreciate being able to share these. So I'll go ahead and pause there. If anybody else wants to join in, other than that, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next at our next meetup.